So, this great Buddhistic theory that everything is false. That particular theory needs to be refuted. Because everything cannot be false. Because if everything is false, even the light that testifies to the falsity of the false, the light that testifies to the falsity of the false cannot be false. So ultimately that knowledge, that awareness, that buddhi, that sense, you may call it buddhi, I would say it is the truth that testifies to the falsity of the false. Truth alone testifies to the falsity of the false. And that testifier, the truth, cannot be false. It's like, I'll give you a very simple example. Dream is false, but the knowledge that it is false is not false. Dream is falsity. You wake up, the dream is gone, it's false. Your knowledge that dream is false is not false. That knowledge, that is what we call avagati. Avagati is the truth, which can never be proved false. Avagati. It is not a given thought. The knowledge that the dream is false, the knowledge that dream is false is not a given thought. It is knowledge pertaining to the falsity of a given thought. The knowledge that dream is false is not a given thought. It is knowledge pertaining to the falsity of a given thought called the dream thought. Therefore, everything cannot be called false. You can't, wherever there is something false, there is also the truth. Truth doesn't presuppose the false, but the false presupposes the truth. Truth can exist unrelated to the false, but false cannot exist unrelated to the truth. Yes. False can't exist independent of the truth, whereas truth can exist independent of the false. Water can exist independent of being a wave, but the wave can't exist independent of being water. Who can negate this reality? Who can change it otherwise? This light that the false exists only in relation to the truth, only as supported by the truth or dependent upon the truth. This clarity, this light, that appearances are rooted in the truth, the false is rooted in the truth, is the very basis for Vedic culture, please. The false presupposes the truth. The mithya presupposes satyam. Is the very is the very basis for Vedic culture. In fact, that should be the basis for the foundation stone for the process of thinking. Thinking must stem from this clarity. Thinking cannot begin in darkness and reach clarity. No. Thinking must begin in light and reach light. Thinking should begin with a ray of light and reach the sun. Thinking should not begin in darkness and reach the sun. It can never. The thinking should begin in this light. That is, if every bluff presupposes the truth, then the false also must presuppose the truth. I have to find out the truth. But there can't be. If I say there is no truth, see, the moment a person says there is no truth, it amounts to saying everything is false. There is no truth when a person takes a stand. There is no truth. It means he takes it for granted that everything is false. But the right thinking would be everything also cannot be false, because even if there is something false, it exists only presupposing the truth. So I must discern between truth and false. In fact, the very definition of thinking is discerning between truth and untruth. What else is thinking? What else is thinking? When we say samyak vichara, right thinking, it is only discerning between truth and untruth, truth and the false. If I get up in the morning and think for going to office, it's all, we can call it thinking. It is all not thinking, it is all programming. It's all planning. So मेरे ऑफिस जाऊंगा, वहाँ पर थोड़ा काम करूंगा, फिर शाम को वापस आ जाऊंगा. Is it thinking or planning? Planning. शादी करूंगा, साउथ एक्सटेंशन में, साउथ दिल्ली में घर बनाऊंगा, अच्छी तरह से जीवन जीऊंगा, etc. etc. People say, is it thinking or planning? Planning. Thinking must lead to light. Planning leads to an achievement of an object. और क्या? एक तो कर्म है, एक तो thinking है. Therefore, we can't use the word thinking just because it is entertained. Even anger is entertained. It doesn't mean it is thinking. Therefore, it's not vichara. Okay. Buddhi buddherapi asad vishayatva prasangat. Up to that we have seen. We are going to do it thoroughly, patiently here. The very clarity that everything can't be false. If there is false, there has to be truth. It is for me to find out the distinction, the difference between the false and the truth. What is false and what is the truth. Tadapi astu iti che na. The buddhi, the Purvapakshi says, the Buddhist says, Tadapi astu, so it be. Even the knowledge, the sense that testifies to the falsity of the false also should becomes false. He says, let that be also accepted as false. This sense that testifies to the falsity of the false, Buddhist says, everything is false, including the sense that testifies to the falsity of the false. Because everything includes that also. Everything means everything literally. That means even the light that testifies to the falsity of the false, which should not be false, that light that testifies to the falsity should not be false. But the Buddhist says even the light that according to you, you say there is some light which testifies to the falsity of the false. I say even that light is false. Why not we say? Are you able to follow what I am saying? Tadapi astu iti chet. Siddhanti says, no. Why? Sarva buddhinam rishatve. If the entire vision is false, if every sense is false, if everything is false, asatya buddhi anupapatte. If everything is false, is great G. Is great G. If everything is false, we can never know the false as false. If everything is false, you can never know the false as false. Because to know the false as false, you need the light of the truth. Baba. You need the light of the truth to know the falsity, to know the false as false. Asatya buddhi anupapatte. Asatya buddhi संभव नहीं है. The sense that this is false, this kind of asatya buddhi is not false, is not possible without the light of the light, the satya. Therefore you can't say everything is false. What can be known false is false. And what helps you to know the false as false is satyam, the truth. Tasmat, therefore. Now Siddhanta is concluding, ji. दवाई आई जी यहीं पर. कोई बात नहीं जी. तस्मात् Siddhanti concludes, Tasma asade tat. What you say is not true. Hey Buddhist, what you say is not true. What is it that you say? Everything is false. It is not true. What can be recognized as false is false. What can be falsified is false. And the light that helps you to falsify the false is truth. Thus we have two things. One is the false, the other is the truth. One is an appearance, the other is the truth. If you say everything is false, then it comes to shunya. But Vedanta doesn't say everything is false. What can be falsified is false. And the light that helps you to falsify the false is the truth. This is Vedanta. This is Vedic vision. Buddhism says everything is false, including the self. Everything is false. Sir, what about the light that helps you to know the false as false? Even that light is false. I say if everything is false, my question is, even then you can never know the false as false, because in order to know the false as false, this is a great growth in you if you can capture this. To know the false as false, you need the light of the truth. To know the lie, a lie as a lie. To know a lie as a lie, you must know what the truth is. Therefore, it is such a wonderful thing to be born into a culture which makes a distinction between the false and the truth. A culture that has no doubt about what the false is, what the truth is. A culture that has no doubt, that's not vague about what the false is, what the truth is. A culture that's not itself groping in the dark. A culture that is absolutely clear what man requires, etc. Therefore, tasmad asadetat sadrishyat tad buddhiriti. And therefore, sir, the clay that is there all over the pot is not similar to the clay that was there before. It is the same clay. Things are not similar. Therefore, this equation, that alone is this, is not based on similarity. That alone is this, is based on the sameness. Tadeta tasmat asadetat sadrishyat tad buddhiriti asat. That there is similarity between the same thing, between the table today and the table tomorrow, there is similarity. This particular conclusion is wrong. In fact, the table yesterday and the table today is the same. Me yesterday and me today is the same. Me in the waking, me in the dream is the same. Me in the blackout called a deep sleep and the me in the waking is the same. There is no change, fundamental change. Objects do change, but with they all change, all changes take place within the framework of continuity. Framework of continuity. A plant becomes a tree, tree becomes a bigger tree, that becomes a bigger tree. But it is, a lot of changes are taking place, but there is a fundamental continuity of the same thing. And therefore, sir, there is no sense of similarity, there is only sense of sameness. About the same thing you can never have a sense of similarity. About two things you can have a sense of similarity. It's a great clarity, ji. It is a sense of lot of education. It is a result of lot of thinking. Otherwise, when a person hears these two statements, sense of sameness, sense of similarity, he doesn't know what is it all about, the topic. आप क्या बात कर रहे हैं? कभी कहते हैं सिमिलैरिटी, कभी कहते हैं ऐसे नहीं. एक तो बोलो, दो क्यों बोल रहे हैं? That is why every human being, however educated he is, when it comes to clear thinking, he is lame, he is raw. I'm telling you. When it comes to clear thinking, when it comes to Shastram, he is absolutely lame. He is raw. He is prakrita. Ataha siddhaha. Now Siddhanti concludes. Therefore it is very clear. Prak karyotpattehe karana sadbhavaha. Therefore before the creation there was the source. Even before the pot was created, pot was there as a possibility in the clay. Before the creation, there has to be the source. Once we establish before the creation, there has to be the source. And then we establish to this entire discussion, it is the same source that exists in and through the creation. The clay that existed before the creation of the pot alone exists. To begin with, we say in and through the pot. And then slowly we say that alone is now also. Pot is only vacha, rambanam vikaro namadheyam. That is what I call it, but what is only clay. The whole Vedanta comes. But supposing you say before the creation there was nothing, then it becomes Shunya. Even though the Mula Shruti said there was nothing, but it also said it was concealed by Mrityu. It simply means it was unmanifest. How do you interpret it that way? Hey, Vedanta Parampara interprets. In fact, in the light of the totality of the scripture, it has to be interpreted, because total non-existence is not possible. If this did not, the question of the universe not existing before its creation doesn't arise. Before the creation, the universe remained unmanifest. The unmanifest becomes manifest. But the names and forms become manifest in the source, remain unmanifest in the source. If you accept the avyakritam, you accept the karanam. If you don't accept the avyakritam, then you don't accept the karanam, because remain unmanifest where? Then you have to accept karanam. Therefore, Shunyavada cannot be proved. Now, why this pot example was so much emphasized? Because the Buddhists also believe in the Drishtanta, that is Tarka. Even though they go by Tarka, but we refute a school based on Tarka only through Tarka. It's like if somebody uses a stick to beat you, then you also use stick. If he uses a gun, you use the gun. If he uses a nuclear weapon, you also use a nuclear weapon. In the same manner, if somebody tries to refute what Vedanta says through Tarka, if somebody comes up with a school of thought based on Tarka, you refute it through Tarka. And Tarka means Drishtantam. And Drishtantam means this here pot happens to be. So once we establish that the creation of the pot presupposes the source, and for them that is the pramanam, the Tarka, then we can extend. Sir, you are trying to propound Shunyam through pot example anyway. Because according to you, once the pot is born, the clay is gone, you say. But the clay is not gone also. It is there. If the clay is gone, then it can't have laya anyway. The pot can never break. Therefore, the Shunyavada cannot be proved through the pot example, because the pot example clearly tells that there is clay before the pot was created. He tried to say it is not the clay that is the source of the pot, but the clay ball. And when the pot is born, the clay ball is destroyed. And Siddhanta said it is the clay ball, the ballness of the ball is destroyed, but the clay is not destroyed. The material is not destroyed. And therefore ultimately it is the clay that is the source of the pot. Thus the pot example clearly proves that before the creation of the pot there is the source. After the creation of the pot there is continuity of the source. After even the destruction of the pot there is continuity of the source. Continuity of the source cannot be questioned. It is that continuity of the source that gives you the sense, वही यहाँ है. वो जो क्ले था ना, वही यहाँ है, वही यहाँ है, वही यहाँ है. तदे tat in Sanskrit is called pratyabhijna. And yesterday I spoke one very good point. Pratyabhijna is the light that throws light on the light. It is the light. Pratyabhijna is the light that lights up the truth. Yes. There is no other light, Ji. In life there is no other light except Pratyabhijna. Amazing. Except this light, that I am the same in all the states, except this light. Where is the light? The sense of continuity about oneself. Even the sense of continuity about the objects. Actually, the sense of continuity about the objects is different from the sense of continuity about oneself. The sense of continuity about one's being is the pratyabhijna about the truth. And minus this pratyabhijna, where is the raging? Where is the light? Minus pratyabhijna, where is the light in life? Minus that pratyabhijna, tade tat, where is the light? I would say pratyabhijna is not created by Shastra. Pratyabhijna is pointed out by the Shastra. Tasmad asade tat sadrishyat tat buddhirityataha siddhaha prak karyotpattehe karana sadbhavaha. Therefore it is established that before the creation of the pot, karanam, before the creation there is source. Once we say before the creation there has to be the source, then the Shunyavada is out. Pick up this small ray. If there is source before creation, then there is no Shunyavada. If there is source before the creation, there is same source continues after the creation. And the same source continues after the destruction of the creation. Resolution. There is a problem. What frightens man is discontinuity. But actually there is no discontinuity, there is only choiceless continuity. You know, we will go to the next paragraph, abhi jayenge. Thoda sa, very, very deep point, very riddling, very puzzling. It's a puzzling thing. Man fears discontinuity of his own being. He fears. That's called fear of death. Fear of death is nothing but fear of discontinuity. Why does he so willingly fall asleep? As an individual there is a discontinuity. As an individual there is discontinuity. Why does he so willingly fall asleep? Why does he so willingly? Because there is some instinct, the instinct that falls in line with the truth, tells him there is no discontinuity. It's a peaceful continuity. He is not able to discern between the discontinuity of individuality and peaceful continuity. Continuity is always in the form of peaceful. It is the peaceful identity that has continuity. The noise has no continuity. The noise of the individuality has no continuity. The thought that I am so and so discontinues. The thought that I am Mr. so and so, Mrs. so and so, I am young, old, ityadi, all your biodata has discontinuity. And if you attach continuity, it is the peaceful identity that has continuity. Continuity, when it comes to one's continuity, one's noisy identity has no continuity. One's peaceful identity. Even in the waking state, what has continuity is one's peaceful identity, one's fundamental being that has continuity. The being that is peaceful in sleep alone is now there as peaceful minus the appearance of noise. But why does man fear death? He is not able to discern between the peaceful continuity and the discontinuity of noise. The discontinuity of noise, he thinks it is the discontinuity of his being. When he dies, only his noise discontinues. Then others start making noise. You see? When a person dies, he stops making noise, then others make noise. But anyway, his peaceful identity doesn't discontinue. My puzzle is this. This puzzle is this. Why does he so willingly fall asleep? Why does he so? He loves to, even though it is natural, but he loves to have sleep. He loves to. Even though it is a part of his life in ignorance, to wake up, to dream, again to fall asleep, etc. But he loves it. My puzzle is his love for sleep. Sleep is a state in which your entire individuality discontinues. And death is not going to be different from sleep. He fears death, he doesn't fear sleep. You may say because sleep is something after which he knows he will come back. There is no guarantee. There is no guarantee. Once a person is just goes, transcends the body and the mind, there is no guarantee. Therefore, if there is source before the creation, then the same source is there after the creation, then the same source is there after the resolution. The fear of discontinuity should come to an end in life. Once the fear of discontinuity comes, if it is understood, there is no discontinuity, then your attention is with the peaceful identity of your being, the silent depth of your being. Like the silent depths of the ocean. I'm just giving a very, very, very simple example. Don't take it literally. They have continuity, whereas the noise has the waves, the noise of the waves has a discontinuity, but the silent depths have continuity. In that manner. And now Siddhanti further says, he has clinched the thought, he has dismissed. There is a particular logic. It's very nice. Once you have refuted the person, once he is down, then you don't allow him to get up. You understand, Once a person is down, then you don't allow him to get up. Then you really beat him up. बात करने के पहले थोड़ा सोचना था वगैरह वगैरह बात. You understand, These all the tricks. Now the Siddhanti says, my dear son, listen to me further. What is it? Karyasya cha abhivyakti lingatvat. Each vakya takes long time to explain. The very creation, abhivyakti lingatvat, its only identity is that it is objectified by you. Abhivyakti means manifestation. The non-existent becoming existent. जो नहीं था, what was not there, becoming present is not abhivyakti. But what existed unmanifest becomes manifest. That is called abhivyakti. Creation, the very definition of creation is becoming manifest. The unmanifest becoming manifest. It's called creation. ये बहुत ही बड़ी सिद्धांत है. It is fundamentally सिद्धांत. It's a Bhashyakara is clinching this point. Creation does not mean जो नहीं था वो होना. Creation does not mean the happening of what was not there. Creation means there is only one linga. Linga means, one clue. The very definition is called linga really. The very definition of the creation is that having been unmanifest, it becomes manifest. If this is the definition, अब देखिए, what was unmanifest becomes manifest, that is called creation, but what was unmanifest where? There must be the source. That is why Bhashyakara says, Karyasya cha sadbhavaha, the presence of creation, pragutpattehe, even before its manifestation, the creation was present even before its manifestation. It was present in its source. ये बात सिद्धा is established. If creation means manifestation, then before the creation it remained unmanifest. Now he is proving the second. He is very, very beautiful. Till now he has proved that creation presupposes the source. Now he is proving the creation presupposes the very presence of the creation in its unmanifest state. Till last paragraph, Bhashyakara proved that creation presupposes the source, the clay. Creation presupposes the source. And now onwards he is proving creation presupposes the very presence of the creation in its unmanifest state. Sadbhava. One is Karana Sadbhava, the other is Karya Sadbhava. If you can follow, I am going to tell you something. Vedanta functions, Vedanta unfolds the truth on the basis of the first stand that the creation presupposes the source. That is the fundamental. Creation presupposes the source is the very fundamental, which is the truth. Whereas the second statement, that the creation presupposes the presence of the very creation in its unmanifest state, makes it Satkaryavada. It is a part of Vedanta. It dismisses the Asatkaryavada. Asatkaryavada is a very universal habit. Asatkaryavada is a universal habit of thinking that before the creation it was non-existent. This house, before it was made, it was non-existent. This tree, before it appeared, it was non-existent. So before the birth of something, it was non-existent. Vedic culture says before the creation, before the birth, the very creation, whatever is, like a child. Before the birth of a child, that child was there in the unmanifest state. The tree, before it germinates, it is there unmanifest in the form of the seed. Even a building, before it becomes unmanifest, before it becomes created, becomes made, before it's built, the entire building was there as a possibility unmanifest in the material. Why not? Thus, the distinction of Vedic culture is everything is accepted even before the creation. It was there as unmanifest. Thus, accepting the presence of the creation even before the creation, accepting the presence of the universe even before the creation, accepting the presence of the universe even before its creation, accepting its presence as unmanifest makes it Satkaryavada. And the universal thinking that really before the creation it was non-existent. वो नहीं था पहले, वो नहीं था पहले, अभी आया, पहले नहीं था. This universal thinking is called Asatkaryavada. This universal thinking called Asatkaryavada was stolen by a Nayayika, a Vaiseshika, and he calls it his school of thought. Like Shunyavada is a universal thinking stolen by a Buddhist. Universal confusion stolen. He doesn't know how to steal the truth. He only knows how to steal confusions. सारी confusions को steal करके इकट्ठा करते हैं. Buddhism is nothing but Buddhists stole the universal confusion and propound it as their own school. Nayayikas and Vaiseshikas also steal the universal confusion that the creation doesn't exist before it was born. The world was not there before it was born. A child was non-existent before it was born. In this manner, this universal conclusion was stolen by the Nayayika, Vaiseshika Indian schools, and they propound it as their own school. But Vedic culture dismisses both Shunyavada, and that is why I say, right here clings to thought. That is why dismissing a school of thought called Shunyavada amounts to dismissing universal error. Dismissing Asatkaryavada also amounts to dismissing a universal confusion that things don't exist before their creation. I am telling you, this entire science, before it was discovered, it was there as unmanifest. What was there unmanifest alone can be made, can become manifest and discovered. If one did not discover, somebody else would discover. What is there? No knowledge is our creation. It just really becomes manifest in somebody's mind. It only strikes. I can say you can't take any credit for any discovery because it is not Purusha Tantra. It's not will born. It is not individual will born. It just, you are thinking and it strikes you. Pramana. And therefore, Vedic culture dismisses both Shunyavada as well as Asat Karyavada. Ho gaya ji. Next sentence. Katham. I am going very slowly because this bhashya stirs ji, Baba. Katham, how? Only scholars, even scholars, when they read, when they sit down to read bhashya, they keep tiger balm with them. Kerosene tablets. A lot of bombs they keep. That is called preparatory steps for studying bhashya. To handle the migraines. Yes. Katham. Katham means how. Sir, can you explain away how the very definition of creation is manifestation? Katham, how, sir? Can you explain how the very definition, how the very lingam, the very definition of creation, karyam, the very definition of an effect, the very definition of a creation is manifestation. How can you define creation as manifestation? Because according to us, creation means jo nahi tha wo aana. What was non-existent is it is brought into existence. That is how we think. Jo nahi tha is born. But you say no, it only becomes manifest. The moment you use the word abhivyakti, manifestation, then you are accepting its presence in the unmanifest state even before. This is puzzling. You are defining creation as manifestation. I would like you to clarify that point. Katham? For this, the answer is Abhivyakti lingatvat, because it has no other description except manifestation. Creation has no other description than manifestation. Very beautiful ji. What is potentially there, what is unmanifestly there, by law it becomes manifest. Because it is the law that what is unmanifest, one day it has to become manifest. And what is unmanifest can become manifest. That also within the law of karma, within the law of causation, within the creation. Truth doesn't become now manifest, now unmanifest. Truth always evident as it is. It is not the nature of the truth to become now manifest, now unmanifest, now become manifest, now become... No. But the creation, the names and forms, they become now manifest, now unmanifest. So here Bhashyakara says, Abhivyakti lingatvat. Each word is great. It has only one description called manifestation. Abhivyakti lingamasyeti. Because it means Abhivyakti lingamasya. It has only one clue, that it becomes manifest. Because it has only that clue, we describe it also as Abhivyakti. Then what is Abhivyakti? Abhivyakti sakshad vijnana alambanatva prapti. You underline this sentence. It's a great help for a Vedanta Vidyarthi. This is something that is going to help a student of Vedanta enormously if he is a serious student. The unmanifest doesn't have to change to become manifest. The unmanifest only, the invisible becoming visible is called manifestation. The hitherto invisible the hitherto unobjectified becoming objectified is called manifestation. Adhivyaktihi, what is manifestation? Sakshat vijnana alambanatva prapti. Sakshat, directly. Vijnana alambanatva prapti. Sakshat means directly being objectified. Directly becoming an object of knowledge. Directly entering the realm of knowledge. When I close my eyes, the form is not visible. When I open my eyes, then I say it is manifest. But supposing, this manifestation must be understood like this. Supposing I close my eyes deliberately and I say the form is unmanifest. That's not the right thing. Supposing I transcend both the eyes and the form, I fall asleep, I transcend. And both the eyes and the form come into manifestation together. That is called manifestation. Yes. That's called manifestation. When I transcend the eyes close, the eyes are not felt, the form is also not felt. But the potentiality of the eyes is there. The potentiality of the form also is there, but not felt, and that is unmanifested. And when it is felt, it is manifested. But if I close my eyes and say it is unmanifest, it is wrong. Because unmanifest state means even the memory should become unmanifest. You close your eyes and all the time remembering. ऐसा नहीं जी, उसको बहुत one has to be careful. And now why did I tell you to underline it? I told you to underline it just to give you one bit of clarity that the unmanifest becoming a manifest doesn't require any change. It is not a process. The unmanifest becoming a manifest is not a process. Only what is invisible becomes visible. That's all. The unfelt becomes felt. If the unfelt becomes felt, if that is manifestation, then it is not a process. It's not a change. And it can give you some prasadam ji. Jnana prasadam. Those serious students can pick up this. There is no process at the level of the unmanifest. The manifest becomes unmanifest, becomes manifest, it is not a process. The manifest becomes unmanifest is not a process. And their being known to me also is not a process. My presence also is not. That means fundamentally there is no process. Life is not a process. Life is only manifest, unmanifest. Waking up is not a process, falling asleep is not a process. If waking up is not a process, and falling asleep is not a process, and even dream is not a process, because only avyakrita thoughts, the unmanifest thoughts only become manifest, then where is the process? Even the process comes under vyakriti and avyakriti. Even what we call process becomes manifest and unmanifest. But that manifest unmanifest is not a process. That means creation is not a process. Papa. If creation is not a process, it's called Maya Srishti. What is the problem? Why should I don't accept her? I am a very scientific-minded person. Therefore, I don't accept Maya and all that. Explain to me scientifically. How? What is this scientifically? I think it should be logical, should be correct. To be correct is more important than being scientific. Scientific means, then it becomes a different thing. That means it will be based on perception and inference. Because the entire science is based on sense data. To be scientific means to go by sense perception. That is the technical meaning of science. But according to Vedanta, to be correct is more important. You don't have to follow sense perception, but you can still be correct. It's like saying, deep sleep state, there are no senses. But it's my experience. Everybody's experience. But it's not based on sense perception. Neither the experience of it is sense perception, nor memory of it, pratyavijna of it is sense perception. Therefore, it is wrong to say that one should be scientific. It is right to say that one should be correct. That's all. Samyakta is more important than being scientific. Science is pratyaksha pramanam. Science is based on pratyaksha pramanam and anumana pramanam. Be scientific does not mean explain everything and know truth through pratyaksha and anumana. ऐसा कैसे होगा? तो शब्द प्रमाण. Okay, just I am concluding. अभिव्यक्ति ही साक्षात विज्ञान आलम्बनत्व प्राप्ति ही. Thus we get the prasadam, that there is no process. Therefore, even the struggle manifests and becomes unmanifest. That human struggle also manifests when sometimes, when you have good prarabdha, then the sukham manifests in life. When the bad prarabdha is there, dukkham manifests in life. You have no control over it. And when the good prarabdha goes, bad prarabdha comes, dukkham goes. And when it is over, it becomes unmanifest. The potential for it is always there, as long as ajnanam is there. Therefore, for somebody to think, if a little pain is gone, it doesn't mean it's gone. That is not the end of the world. Pata nahi abhi kya kya aane wala hai. Dani. Therefore, please understand this Vyakriti, Avyakriti topic gives you Jnana Prasadam. Fundamentally, there is no process, there is no struggle, it is only one being in which there is manifest state, unmanifest state, without any process. Instead of, we will continue it later on, just last point to grasp it before you go. Instead of converting the Vyakriti and Avyakriti into a process, convert the process into Vyakriti and Avyakriti. It's a liberation. Don't look upon the Vyakriti and Avyakriti into a process, but even convert the felt process, the struggle, into Vyakriti and Avyakriti. Vyakriti hoti hai Vyakriti. Neither Vyakriti is a process, nor Avyakriti is a process, nor the truth is a process. Thus he has explained away. And therefore, sir, Shunyavada is out because creation presupposes not only the source, but even the very creation in its unmanifest stage. Where is the question of Shunya? Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purna Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Hare you.